Doctor, is there any way I can feel like myself again? Mary, 67, asked me during a routine consultation at a small, peaceful nursing home in Sarasota, Florida. The question seemed gentle, but her eyes weren't. In that gaze was sadness, a hint of longing, and a silent truth shared by many over 60, a sincere desire to feel radiant and confident again. I'm Dr. Authority, a specialist in geriatrics and natural dermatological care. Over the past 20 years practicing across states from California to Texas, I've met thousands of elderly patients. And there's one thing I've come to deeply understand. At this age, what they need isn't just medication or cosmetic treatments, but a revival of emotion, the feeling of genuinely loving themselves again. Mary used to be an elementary school teacher. She loved her job, loved children, and loved the soft floral dresses she often wore in class. But after retirement, along with the inevitable changes of aging, her skin became dull, dry, and that led to a loss of confidence. "I'm still healthy, doctor," she said, "but every time I look in the mirror, I don't see the woman I once loved anymore." Mary's story is far from rare. In the U.S., there are over 54 million people aged 65 and older, and many of them are quietly facing changes in appearance. Not because they fear aging, but because they feel forgotten. They miss being told they look radiant. They miss looking in the mirror and smiling proudly at who they are. That's why in my consultations, I don't just write prescriptions or talk about collagen and retinol. I tell them about simple, natural, easy-to-do solutions that bring tremendous emotional benefits. One remedy I often recommend is baking soda, a humble ingredient that delivers surprising results in skincare for older adults. At first, Mary was skeptical. "Baking soda? The stuff I use for baking is supposed to brighten my skin?" I simply smiled. Because I know not everything effective has to be expensive, and not every form of care requires fancy machines. I began explaining to her the natural cleansing properties of baking soda, its gentle exfoliating effect, especially suitable for the sensitive skin of seniors. I shared research that shows when combined with gentle ingredients like honey or coconut oil, baking soda can help renew the skin's surface, reduce dullness and dryness, without the irritation caused by many chemical products. And then something wonderful happened after just 3 weeks. Mary returned to the clinic with a completely different smile. She said, "I'm not sure if my skin is actually younger, but I feel happier. I've started picking out nice dresses to wear every morning again. I look in the mirror and I see me." When I heard that, I knew. It wasn't just her skin improving, it was her spirit being restored. You might be in your 60s, 70s, or even older. You might have thought, "I'm too old. What's the point of self-care anymore?" But I want to tell you, as a doctor who's walked this path with countless patients, age doesn't take away beauty. You just need a little spark to awaken it again. And if just one spoonful of baking soda could be the beginning of your journey back to loving yourself, then why not give it a try? Mary is not an isolated case. In my consultations across states like Arizona, California, and South Carolina, I often meet elderly patients, people who once lived vibrantly, had a strong sense of personal style, and truly cared for themselves. But over time, they gradually lost those habits. Not because they no longer wanted to take care of themselves, but because they didn't know where to begin. And perhaps more importantly, they no longer believed it would make a difference. And that is exactly why I chose to share a method that I believe is simple, practical, and truly effective. Using baking soda to help restore naturally smooth, radiant skin, and more importantly, to reawaken your inner confidence. Why baking soda? Because it's not a new or foreign product. It's been in most American kitchens for decades. Yet few people realize that baking soda, or sodium bicarbonate, has mild antibacterial properties, deeply cleanses, and gently exfoliates without thinning the skin or causing irritation, which is especially important for aging skin. What makes this remarkable is that elderly skin is often thinner, more fragile, and prone to dehydration. Products that are highly acidic or overly chemical can cause serious irritation. Meanwhile, baking soda, when used correctly, has a relatively safe pH level, helping cleanse pores, remove dull, dead skin cells, and as a result, leave the skin looking fresher and feeling softer. Beyond the surface level results, I've noticed something even deeper from patient feedback. The act of caring for themselves every day becomes a way for them to reconnect with their body, with their own emotions. During the process of massaging their face with this natural blend, many have told me it felt like they were coming back to themselves, to the days when they used to sit in front of the mirror, carefully applying cream, putting on lipstick, choosing each outfit with anticipation and joy. I once told Mary, taking care of your skin at 67 isn't about looking 27. It's about looking in the mirror and seeing the woman you once loved and who has always deserved to be loved. She nodded, then smiled at herself. This solution isn't expensive. It doesn't take much time. It doesn't depend on beauty clinics or high-tech equipment. Each spoonful of baking soda in your kitchen can become a tool to begin again, not just for your skin, but for how you see your worth after 60. Remember, this isn't a beauty trick. It's a way to affirm, I still matter, I can still shine, I still deserve care. And that, to me, as a doctor, is the most powerful emotional vitamin I could ever offer any of my patients. I still remember the first morning Mary returned after 3 weeks of trying the skincare formula I had recommended. She walked into the clinic with no makeup, no elaborate lipstick, but on her face was a different kind of glow, the glow of transformation. She said, I don't know if it's the baking soda, but I feel so different. Every morning I look forward to caring for my skin. I smiled because I understood. The change wasn't just on her skin, it was in the way Mary saw herself. And now I want to share with you, precisely step by step, how to use baking soda safely, effectively, and in a way that truly suits aging skin. 1. Understand your skin after 60 before you begin. After age 60, your skin no longer produces collagen as it once did. The epidermis thins, moisture retention declines, and dead cells accumulate, making your skin appear dull, dry, and tired. That's why skincare at this age must be gentle, safe, and minimal, avoiding harsh chemicals or pH-disrupting agents. Baking soda, when used properly, can meet all three of those needs: cleansing, exfoliation, brightening support. But it has to be done the right way. 2. Natural brightening mask recipe using baking soda. I often recommend patients start with this simple formula: 1 tablespoon, 15 milliliters, of baking soda, unscented, pure, easily found at any grocery store in the U.S. 1 tablespoon of raw honey, naturally antibacterial and deeply moisturizing 1 teaspoon, 5 milliliters, of warm water or rose water to help dissolve and create the right consistency. How to apply: mix all ingredients thoroughly in a small bowl until a smooth paste-like texture is formed. Gently wash your face with warm water and pat dry with a soft towel. Apply the mixture evenly to your face, avoiding the eyes and lips. Massage gently for 1 to 2 minutes in circular motions, focusing on areas with dullness or fine lines. Leave the mask on for about 5 minutes. No longer, since mature skin is prone to dryness if baking soda sits too long. Rinse off with warm water and apply a lightweight, alcohol-free moisturizer. 3. Important safety tips when using baking soda. As a physician, I don't just share what works. I also share what requires caution. Here are my key recommendations. Always patch test on a small area, like the inner wrist, before the first use to ensure you don't react. Do not use it daily. A frequency of 1 to 2 times per week is ideal, giving the skin time to recover and rebalance its pH. Never mix baking soda with high-acid products like vinegar or lemon juice, especially not on mature, sensitive skin. Always follow with a moisturizer. Choose one with ceramides, hyaluronic acid, or oat extract, all gentle and effective for sensitive skin. 4. Why this method works well for older Americans. Many have asked me, Doctor, is this just an old folk remedy? My answer, no. This is a method supported by research, and more importantly, it fits the lifestyle of many older Americans. They appreciate simplicity, not complicated routines. They prefer to save money, avoiding expensive spa treatments. They value the ability to care for themselves at home, in their own familiar space. And above all, they want real results without relying on technology or surgery. 5. It's not just skin, it's your spirit being healed. When Mary told me she spends 10 minutes every morning making her mask, I asked, "Has your skin brightened?" And she replied, "Yes, but more importantly, I feel loved. Loved by myself." And that's why I share this recipe. Not to make you look 30 years younger, but to help you remember that your inner light was never lost. I've always believed that no medical advice is as inspiring as the real stories of real people. And today, I want to tell you about James, a 72-year-old man from Boulder, Colorado, who helped me realize that skincare is not just for women, and it's never too late to start loving yourself again. James was a civil engineer who spent his life working outdoors. After retirement, he devoted most of his time to hiking, gardening, and volunteering at his local church. But years of sun, wind, and the dry mountain air had left his skin darkened, cracked, and lifeless. "My face feels like an old piece of wood, rough, worn, and unnoticed," he said during our first appointment. James was never one to care much about appearance. But what brought him to my clinic was his wife, Alice, who had recently started teasing him. "You're getting old and you're starting to look dull." He laughed, but behind that laugh I could sense a twinge of hurt and a quiet longing for change, not for vanity, but to preserve the image of himself in the eyes of the woman he loved. I introduced James to the baking soda skincare routine. Simple, easy to follow, and perfectly suited for his independent lifestyle. "Just commit to it twice a week for 3 weeks," I said. He wasn't convinced, but he agreed to try, because he told me he'd never turned down anything that made his wife smile. 3 weeks later, James returned with his familiar clay-colored baseball cap, but a completely different look in his eyes. "Doctor, Alice said I look brighter," he laughed. His skin was noticeably less rough. The dryness on his forehead and cheeks had eased, and his overall spirits seemed visibly lifted. He started taking interest in gentle skincare products, asking me about the right moisturizer to use after baking soda. I never thought I'd care about my face, but every time she touches my cheek and says, "Your skin's smoother now," I feel like I'm young again. To me, that was the greatest success, not because James's skin had completely transformed, but because he had reconnected with himself and with the one he loves through just one simple weekly act. And I know that hundreds of my patients, from rural areas in Georgia to quiet neighborhoods in Oregon, are taking small steps just like that to rediscover the light in their lives. You see, skincare isn't something distant or luxurious. It's how you say, "I still care about myself. I'm still worth loving." Whether you're a woman like Mary or a man like James, whether you live in humid Florida or arid Arizona, you can start today. Just one small step, a simple mix of baking soda and the commitment to self-love, and you'll be amazed at what your body and spirit can do. I often tell my patients that skincare after the age of 60 isn't just about beauty. It's a journey of restoring the relationship between you and yourself. Because honestly, at this age, most people no longer obsess over appearance the way they did when they were younger. They no longer chase standards or feel the need to impress others with how they look. But what they still quietly long for is to look in the mirror and smile at the reflection. Not because it's perfect, but because they can feel, "This is me, and I'm still okay, still worthy of love." Skin may seem like something external, but in reality, it's part of your identity. It's where you feel yourself every morning when you wake up. And when your skin becomes brighter, cleaner, softer, the first thing that changes isn't how others see you, but how you see yourself. Some medical studies at Stanford University have shown that older adults who engage in daily self-care habits, even simple ones like washing their face, applying lotion, or doing a face mask, tend to report higher self-satisfaction, lower risk of mild depression, and improved overall emotional well-being. And I've seen this clearly in practice. Think back to James, the engineer from Boulder I told you about. After a few weeks using the baking soda mask, it wasn't just his skin that changed, His posture, his expression, his tone of voice were all different. He laughed more, spoke with more energy, and most notably, he started telling me about small plans he wanted to make with his wife. I'm planning to take Alice to the beach for the first time in 15 years, doctor. And then there's Mary, the retired teacher from Florida, who once believed she had nothing left to care about on the outside, now shows up to the clinic in a new dress every time, gently asking me, "Does my skin look brighter today, doctor?" I always answer, "Yes, very bright, but more importantly, your eyes shine even brighter than your skin." When you start doing something good for yourself, even something small, your mind registers it as a positive signal that you still care about yourself, that you're still worthy of being cherished and nurtured. And from there, all other positive feelings begin to bloom. Confidence, connection, and the motivation to live more fully each day. I won't promise that baking soda will make you look 30 years younger, but I do believe it can be a small key that opens a much larger door, one where you're not just restoring your skin, but also your emotions, your memories, and your affection for who you are. And that, to me, is the most lasting beauty treatment at any age. My dear friend, if you've made it this far, I truly believe that deep in your heart, there's a desire to become friends with yourself again. Not through grand gestures, not by fitting into someone else's standards of beauty, but in your own way, gently, slowly, mindfully, and with love. I shared the stories of Mary and James with you not because they were exceptional, but because they were so beautifully ordinary, just like millions of older adults across America, who once felt like they were fading, but who reignited their own light with just one small step. And now I want you to ask yourself, am I ready to give myself a little attention again? If your answer is yes, then I'm here to walk this journey with you. All it takes is a simple mix of baking soda and honey, a quiet corner of your familiar kitchen, and 10 minutes a week, and you'll begin the journey of reconnecting with yourself, your skin, and the confidence that's been sleeping quietly inside you. But I don't want this journey to stop at just one video. I don't want you to listen, then forget. I want you to begin, and I want us to stay connected, to help spread this message together. Age can never take away your inner light. As long as you still care, you still shine. So if you found value in what I shared today, please do 3 small things to help keep this spirit moving forward. Hit the like button. It's your way of saying, I agree. I want this for myself. Click subscribe. Because this isn't just a video, it's a journey where I, as a doctor, will continue sharing natural, safe, and practical ways for you to live well, feel beautiful, and nurture your spirit right in your own home. And if you truly believe someone out there needs to hear this, please share this video. Maybe it's an old friend you haven't spoken to in years, a neighbor who lives alone, a brother, sister, or former coworker who's retired. You never know. Your one click might be the spark that reignites someone else's hope. I didn't create this channel to chase trends. I created it because I believe older adults in America deserve to be heard, to be cared for, and to be inspired. We don't need anyone to tell us to look young again. We just need to be reminded that we still matter, that we can change, that we can be beautiful in our own rich, deep, and meaningful way. You don't have to wait for a special occasion. You don't need an expensive product. All you need is to say to yourself today, I'm starting with something small, and I believe that small thing will open a door bigger than you imagined. Let the comments below be a space for you to share your thoughts, ask questions, or simply leave a word of encouragement for someone else on the same path. We're not alone. We are a community, and you are an important part of it. Thank you for being here, for listening, and most of all, for choosing to love yourself once again. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, growing older doesn't dim your light, it just asks for a little glow from within to shine through.